Welcome to Soul Thrive, where we explore spirituality through healing trauma, shadow work, and applying the laws of the universe in order to master ourselves without the fear of the unknown.
In this episode, we wanted to talk about conflict.
Resolving conflict or just conflict?
Attracting conflict. So why do we attract conflict?
Okay, yeah.
And how it's actually a reflection of the conflict we feel inside of us, but most people don't think that. They're like, why am I always attracting all this shit? And like, I have issues with my boss, I have issues with my friends, I have issues here, issues there. And the one thing that we've been learning in Soul Thrive for years now is understanding, hold on a second, if there's a conflict in my life, if I'm attracting it, there's something within me that must be attracting it.
Mm-hmm.
So,
well, it usually means that there's a part of you that wants to find some serious resolve. And so this part of you that's kind of leading in your life and in your energy and you're attracting it, it's coming from a place of you wishing and desiring a better outcome for your experiences. Okay. So like, let's say, for instance, like I'm a really good manifester. And I've always kind of, because I want everybody around me to like really live and thrive in their experiences. And so sometimes what I do is, which is a flaw of mine at the same time, is like I'll lead with like, don't worry, I can energetically help you with that and help you manifest this and whatever. And then it kind of like the person gets to a point where they didn't really earn that experience for themselves. My energy, I lent my energy, and trust me when I say I've lent it to the point where I've depleted myself so that they can thrive, which goes back to my childhood because my dad wasn't someone who took initiative, wasn't ambitious, didn't thrive in any which way in life. Like he was a very intellectual person, kind-hearted, loving, but he had his addictions. He never really accomplished anything. And I thought, well, if I can loan my energy to my father, then the conflict with my mom would get better because he would then be taking initiative in life around the experiences that she needed support in, which then became a cycle pattern experience within me.
Here we go, cycles again.
Right. So I would then energetically, with friends that didn't deserve it, with relationships that didn't deserve it, with experiences that didn't deserve it, where I literally would energetically loan my ability to manifest and bring in experiences for people. And then the conflict would arise because I would then be depleted. I would then start getting bitter. My work would then start to suffer. My body would then start to suffer. I would get more pessimistic.
So the conflict is within you. So one part is like, I'm tired, I don't want to do this shit anymore.
Exactly.
And the other one's like, no, but I have to do it because that's the only thing I know.
Oh, not only that, it's I have this, so if I give this to this person, then they're going to appreciate me and value me and see me and hear me and blah, 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 whatever else that comes with it, right? And then that means that you and I won't get into a conflict because you're seeing that, look, I have, which was, if you see the mirror, because it goes back to conflict as a mirror, right? Most people were like, I don't know why I attracted this person screaming at me today. I was just at the grocery store. It's like, no. What is your vibrational stance? Like, if you thought about all the experiences that you were going through during the week or even that morning when you woke up, and even if you said, I felt like I was in such a great mood, great. That meant you were so relaxed that the universe wanted to show up the conflict so you can resolve it in a more relaxed state. Right? Or, because sometimes people are like, it came out of nowhere. It never comes out of nowhere. That's what people need to understand. Conflict never comes out of nowhere. It is either building itself up
inside of you,
and then it's going to reflect whether you like it or not.
Okay.
And so, you may have moments where it just feels like, okay, whatever. Eventually, sometimes the conflicts become so repetitive, a person just starts to create the pattern where like, I'm not engaging in this, or I'm not doing this anymore, or I'm leaving this, or they may start therapy. And most people who go to therapy or do this work is because of other people, right? We always talk about, it's not the people that need the work, never do the work. So then it becomes a situation where you get so exhausted and the conflicts are always arising that you don't know what to do with these internal struggles because you're chronically fatigued, you're financials are going to mirror that. Your finances are an energy. So when you're feeling really good, when you're taking very good care of yourself, when you're focusing on your energy, your self-love, appreciation for experiences, financials go like this.
Okay.
When you are in a meaning, they raise higher.
Yeah.
However, I always look at things like as an asset or a liability. Meaning, if you're somebody who really values and cares for yourself, and you're really ready to resolve the conflicts in your life, you're going to see that things are an asset. Things are going to get better. Your energy is going to get better. That's going to mirror. If you avoid, ignore, deflect, are fake, are sugarcoating, or somebody who's like, well, just do things nicely or be nice to that person so you can get whatever you want and manipulate, you're going to see the conflict's going to amp up in your life. And I do notice that those people tend to check out the most. So checking in is a very important process. You need to check in. You need to identify the experiences that you're attracting in your life. And you need to see the theme. You need to see the cycle. You need to see how it's showing up and what it's showing you in front of you. And sometimes when people don't have any awareness, and I say to them, okay, well, what was your childhood like? They're like, oh, my parents were great. They never got into any conflict. Okay, what were they not talking about? What did they not show you?
Right.
What did they not speak of? Because whether you were in the room or not, you felt something. So now there is this energy that's been building within you, and maybe even still on the other spectrum, you saw that things were going on, but what was being communicated to you was very different than what you felt and saw. So now there's another conflict within you where you're like, okay, well, I feel, I see, I know, but now I'm self-gaslighting because maybe I'm wrong. Maybe this isn't what I'm actually experiencing. So you will gaslight yourself, and then you will try to resolve conflicts with people who are avoiders. You can even go into the extreme of them having personality disorders and fragmentations of their own, or maybe even being in really toxic type of relationships.
Narcissists who don't want to resolve.
Narcissists don't believe that they have anything to resolve, right? Although they will create more conflict. They will create a lot, they will create the extreme amount of conflict based on families that have, so if you have attracted a narcissist.
I was just going to ask, so if you attract a narcissist.
Right, if you have attracted a narcissist, it is because you have lived in your childhood to the extreme of avoidance. Your family dynamics, nobody communicated. They were probably extremely conservative. They valued image more and money more than connection, truth, authenticity,
didn't talk about feelings,
emotions, none of that. Right. And so then along comes this person.
So you're gaslit your whole life, basically.
Yeah. And then along comes this person that makes you feel like, valued, loved, appreciated. You know how a narcissist is. They come in with their charm, right?
Yeah, love bombing.
Right. And then you feel, oh, okay, I can maybe potentially live authentically with this person. No. What ends up occurring is the same dynamic starts to happen, where you start to self-gaslight, you start to avoid, you start to, both parties that kind of get into the relationship dynamic of that conflict are extremely insecure people, right? And they figure that this narcissist is going to make them feel secure. And then the narcissist's deep underlying issues of insecurities is going to be like, well, you're everything that I depict as far as an image goes, so you're going to make me feel, and you're going to show people that I'm secure.
Right.
And it's interesting how that conflict plays itself out. And then there are other simple conflicts, like, your day-to-day experiences where you're just trying to figure out why you can't get ahead, or why you can't fix things, or why you can't make yourself feel good. Those small little conflicts, they're not that small. What you have to understand is, like, even when you say things like, oh, the universe is out to get me, or nobody understands me, or, this is, why do I have bad luck? I must be cursed, right?
Yeah.
You are experiencing conflict, and the universe is trying to give you the conflict to resolve. And then if you resolve that conflict, that energy starts to get mutable. It means that you have mutability to it. There is no rigidness. There's no defensiveness. There's no anger towards it. Maybe anger and emotions may arise during the conflict. But what people don't understand is the better you get at resolving it, the more relaxed your energy is, and the better you're going to align with better experiences. Even in the unresolved conflict. Meaning, let's say you and I had a conflict and we were friends for years, and then all of a sudden you got upset with me and you wanted me to, I was like, okay, well, let's resolve the conflict. But in your mind, you've made it like, no, there really isn't anything here to resolve. I just want to part ways. Okay, great. You want to part ways. That may hurt my feelings. You've made a decision.
But it's still a resolution.
That in itself is still a resolved conflict.
Right.
Because two parties may be desiring two different outcomes.
Right.
And so that in itself can be a balanced experience within yourself. Meaning that maybe there was something that you finally healed, you became aware of, or maybe you even said, like for instance with me, the moment I said I'm no longer going to manifest for others, energetically people around me did one of two things. They either fell off and there was a massive conflict and like that conflict showed up and I was just like, okay, I got to deal with this. Or they started to show me their own potentials.
Right.
And they started to show up in a different light. Like I pulled my energy back and I was like, okay, I have to resolve this internal conflict with myself. And I have to be okay that if I'm such a good manifester for myself, then I have to have that energy for myself.
For sure.
There's a reason why, right? Just like you have an energy and a core vibration to yourself too, there's a momentum to that. That's what your soul alignment's all about too. You can define it as purpose to a degree, right? And there's a reason why I need it. But because my childhood experiences where mom and dad were in that conflict, I didn't have the opportunity to resolve it. And so it keeps showing up. It keeps showing up. It amps up. And then I go, okay, crap, I've got to figure out what this is. I got to look at this.
Why do I keep attracting the same? Yeah.
Right? Old me would have been like, oh, I did all of this for you and look what you did to me. And right? And then I went, no, yes, I did do that for them. However, the reason why I did that for them is because I wanted X, Y, and Z. I wanted to feel connected with them. I wanted to experience their potential. I wanted them to live in their highest potential as well, to show them how much I love them. And maybe then there's a resolution in conflict so that there's more harmony. Most people don't abide by your confused trauma and they don't understand the complexities of trauma, so they're not going to sit here and be like, is this what your mommy and daddy did? Like, is this what it feels like? And it's like, most people don't have those conversations. And then it turns into the extreme. I always say when you hate someone or you hate something, it's because there was no way you could resolve the conflict. So hatred really just means I couldn't resolve that conflict.
So you hate it so much because it's like a representation of a never-ending nightmare that can't be resolved.
Yeah, and it almost feels a sense of defeat, a sense of hopelessness. Right. And then you know that the conflict is going to arise again, but you could choose to do something different. Right. Meaning, okay, I hate this experience right now. Maybe I even hate the person. I'm not saying forgive it. I'm not saying...
So how would you go about it? So you attract someone in your experience that you hate, literally, or something.
At one point you love them. At one point in your experiences, if it was a relationship or a person that was in your life and they had a meaning, they had a meaning. They meant something to you. You valued them at one point. Maybe there wasn't enough communication around the things that you needed to do, and then maybe there was a lot of like that person's trauma, your person, maybe there was a codependency, whatever that may look like. When the conflict starts to amp up, usually it's because two people are trying to figure out their desires and the things that they internally want to resolve. Good relationships have the ability to pause and reset and redefine the relationship. Meaning, if a conflict arises, the two of us will sit down and we'll figure out a resolution for the conflict. That's how marriages should operate. If you're in a marriage with somebody, you should be able to sit down and have a conversation about the pattern and or experience, because something has to change. Right. And if it doesn't, eventually the two parties that desire will end up in a divorce or a separation or whatever that may look like, or in a loveless marriage, because you're not resolving that conflict. And instead, two people then start to live and coexist in an environment which defines your childhood all over again.
Right.
Right? So you could see these cycles and limitations and patterns play itself out over and over again. But to resolve conflict is an opportunity for you to evolve, an opportunity for you to make connection, an opportunity for you to see another point of view and have someone else see your point of view, and then find common ground. I think people need to find common ground. We could agree to disagree. I mean, I don't necessarily like that term either, because I would like people to have common ground. I think we need to have common ground. I think when we agree to disagree, that's kind of trauma leading sometimes, or like, I do respect opinions. I think respecting people's opinions. The problem is no one can have an opinion anymore.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
right?
And
then like you're trying to have an opinion, and then it just it turns into conflict, because most people don't understand it's just an opinion.
Right.
You could just take it or leave it. So there's many layers to communication. Communication is a very big indicator of how well you are willing to resolve conflict, and emotional intelligence is also a defining role around resolving conflict. Mm-hmm. So do the work at the end of the day.
Right. So the conflict shows up in the environment. Mm-hmm. You basically have to ask yourself, what is showing up within me?
What's the mirror?
What am I feeling? What's the mirror? Or I guess what are the parts within me are at a conflict, and it's the same conflict that's being reflected on the outside.
Yeah.
Right? And oftentimes, well, most times, it sounds like it's something that you've experienced when you were younger. Mm-hmm. So could the next question also be, how does this remind me of my childhood?
Yeah.
Or
is
this person my mom, or is this person my dad?
Yeah.
Is it that
what's the trauma what's the trauma that's playing itself out? What's the dynamic? What were the conflicts in my childhood that were playing themselves out on repeat?
Yeah. And that I freaking want to resolve, and the universe is like, here you go.
Yeah,
here's a conflict.
I wish people would get better at understanding.
It's almost like you should welcome it.
Yes. Yeah. I wish people would get better at understanding that the universe is always working in your favor. It's never working against you. That's what people don't understand. Even when I get so annoyed and like, I'm just like, oh my God, right now, I can't. Literally, I'm like, I know you're working in my favor. I know you're doing this because you see something that I'm not seeing right now. Mm-hmm. Universe, guides, higher self, whatever that may look like. I know that you're trying to move me into a better vibrational stance because I've asked for it. Mm-hmm. And so if I've asked for it, I don't expect it to look like rainbows and butterflies. Most people's perception around healing is that I'm doing the work and you're the problem. And it's like, no, the reason the problem is showing up is because of all of these traumas and experiences. And it is not your job to turn to someone and say that they're not healing when, they could be doing their own perspective. Most people are not, I will say that, right? I really would hope more people would, right? But the person who's doing the work, the person who's putting the time, and the person who's willing to resolve the conflict has to go all in, even if it means losing something in the experience of it.
Well, that's something I feel like I've learned at work. I think in my career has been like an easier way for me to resolve it lately.
Yeah, because we don't have such personal. Yeah, professionalism is the term.
But there is a risk of losing your job, which goes back to losing your money, which goes back to feeling like
you're going to go back into your spirals.
But it's interesting. I would say over the last 15 years, now when I look back, I can see how I've attracted the same type of authority figure that kind of wanted to take my power away.
Well, it's your assumption, right? So this is what you need to understand. I did in the work, one of 8-week programs that we had done years ago, I had defined authority figure, victim figure, fixer, all
when I say authority, I mean someone higher.
Right. But most people who are in leadership roles are authorities.
Yeah.
Right?
Fair.
Right?
Fair.
So the assumption is that the authority is going to take something from you. Mm-hmm. That's your trauma leading.
Right.
That's not necessarily.
It hasn't always been true, but it has.
Well, again, that's you leading with that assumption, right? Based on your insecurity, your lack, and in that conflict that you had in your own childhood. And so you're allowing that to dictate the truth of the narrative, where you're in a position where you could speak up, say something, set appropriate boundaries, or not even think that. Be like, well, unless I have tangible proof that something is right? Unless I have tangible proof and I actually have the facts that this person is going to take something from me, then no. And I know this because when I work with people as a manifestor in the past, that was exactly the tone and the delivery. It was, you want to take something from me. I'm like, no, I've given you this.
Yeah.
I gifted you this.
I recognize situations in the past where I would go in leading with that because of my trauma. But then I forget which workshop it was after, when we were like really challenging ourselves to like step up. There was a situation where I did attract someone who wanted to take something from me.
Yeah.
And that conflict that I had with this person represented a conflict within me, where there was a part of me that's like, enough already, fucking stand up for yourself.
Yes.
Like act like the authority figure, because you're always feeling like, oh, someone else is the authority. Someone else will know better.
Yeah.
Someone else will lead the way. But it's like, no, actually, no, I can do the same thing. So I think at that point when I resolved that conflict, the conflict resolved by me speaking up and then me leaving and going somewhere else.
Yeah, well, because again, the universe wants better.
Right. So I was like, I don't want to be here. You know what, guys? Bye.
Right. Well, because at that point, by vibration, I mean, like will always attract like. And so when you shift one thing, or you create a different cycle, or you break a limitation and you finally align with, you know, your truth to a degree, whether it's speaking up, whether it's executing boundaries, whatever that may look like, you no longer can hold the same frequency in space. By laws of attraction, you have to shift.
Right.
And so this is why I tell you guys too, the members of the committee, I'm always like, guys, we have to be on the same page, right? That's like normal. Like most people are like, we need to be on the same page, because if we're on the same page and we're gonna keep moving forward together. It's when we're not on the same page, when someone else has ulterior motives, the jealousy kicks in, their trauma's leading, and they've got the narratives from the victim mentality, and they're like, oh, you know, this person thinks that they're attention seeking, or they're takers, or they want to use us, or whatever that narrative may look like. That's why when I sit down with you girls, I'm always like, we have to resolve conflict. We have to get on the same page. What is everyone's desires? What are you guys working on? How can we take better care of our health? Like, I'm always kind of chiming in as a unit, because there's a representation of us. And the more we can work as a unit, the better. The ones that have fallen off had ulterior motives and other desires.
Right.
And so we weren't on the same page vibrationally. And so they had to go and exit out into a different direction. That's okay. There's nothing wrong with that.
And that's a conflict resolve in itself.
That in itself is a conflict resolve. Even though it may have amped up conflict and it may have not been a nice experience, it also kind of was like, well, it needed to be in order for me to go into the direction of the things I'm desiring, because I can't ask the universe for this and wait. Are you going to show up? Are you going to continue coming with me? Or do you want to do this with me? I always say the people that value you, that love you, that care of you, that appreciate you will grow with you. If there's even an inkling of them being jealous or having a motive or an unresolved trauma, which I will say it usually is the victim mentality and the rejection wound that leads the most. And if you don't not heal that part, that in itself will then create the separation. It will create the conflict and amp it up. And that's because you looked in your childhood where you saw your parents having this dynamic of immaturity. There was no emotional intelligence to be able to effectively communicate emotions and then effectively communicate emotions to you as a child.
Right.
Now you could see we're kind of in the other extreme where there's a little too much of the soft parenting. We still need discipline. Children still need discipline. And that doesn't create conflict. It actually creates really great independent thinking children that have the ability to assert themselves in their lives and their experiences. The gentle parenting, to a degree, can cause children to be confused, not know how to initiate, not to, right? And like now we're also creating a system where, like, we used to have bullies, right? Back in the day, and it was like, oh, this girl was a bully or this person was a bully. But that bully taught me how to, like, have a voice to a degree. I am not saying that bullying is what I do. And let me clarify that.
But it goes back to welcoming
But
the conflict.
I am saying, like, I think, like, you're always going to match something, right? So if the kid got bullied if it was extreme, then obviously parents and everybody has to get involved, and there has to be a resolve, and there should also be a resolve in the child that was the bully. Where is this coming from?
Because he created a conflict because he had a conflict. He or she had a conflict within themselves.
Instead, though, we're teaching children to like not express any of it. So now this bully kid doesn't know how to, because a kid doesn't know how to regulate themselves in an environment. Doesn't know. And now there's an implosive type of experience going on inside a child instead of an explosive type of experience. Explosive overtly means I can see it. I now register that there is something this child needs. Internally, implosive means this child's numbed itself out. I don't know what the damage of that's going to look like down the road. That's why it's important for us to resolve conflict. I think like, when I look at the boomers, it was the extreme because they had like literally no opportunity to resolve conflict, and they just kind of like wild kids free. And then you had the millennials, and like there was a little bit of like, okay, well, we've got to try. We got to do a bit better. But then now the millennials are having children, and they're like soft, gentle parenting, and there's the guilt that they feel from their childhood. Right, I can see this because I talk to a lot of moms, and they're always like, I feel so guilty for when I yell at my kid, or I'm like, it's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. Am I creating more conflict in them? I'm like, no, you're building character for them. That's okay. I'm not condemning doing it all the time. Please, I'm not saying yell at your kid, slap your kid, hit your kid. No, I'm not communicating that. But I am saying it's okay to discipline. It's okay to set boundaries. Children need those things. They need boundaries. They need to know what their limits are. Why do you think we've developed addicts? Where did addicts come from? How does an addict resolve the internal conflict within themselves? Betrayal wound? I'll fucking lay it out right now. I will. If you want to resolve your addictive behavior pattern, work through your mother wound, work through your betrayal wound, how your mother betrayed you, how she didn't protect you, how she put expectations on you to deliver for her, right? How that made you build a void within you. Resolve that conflict. You'll see, if you work on those elements, you will succeed in not relapsing.
So the conflict is just
to understand. Sorry, I channeled so quickly
to understand that the cause, just to take an addict and then as an example. So issues with a mother, feeling like the mother is not really seeing them. It's all about her and meeting her needs, but it's all like subconscious, I guess. Right?
Yeah.
Like none of that is talked about. Obviously, it's just like that is the expectation. So that the coping mechanisms that they've given to her, but then there's a part of them, the void that's like, but you never see me. You're supposed to be the mother. You're supposed to see me. You're supposed to regulate me. You don't. So then the internal conflict is between those two parts. And then it's like, it's so extreme that I'd rather just numb it with the addiction.
Well, that in itself is serving because it's giving you a sense of relief, and it's dropping the inhibitions within you so that you have the opportunity to actually live authentically to a degree, even though you're not. Right?
What do you mean?
Gives you the illusion, the dopamine hit that you can relax, you can let go.
The addictive behaviors, right.
It gives you that hit.
So really, in order to resolve the conflict is like what you have to then, again, just to go back to how do you figure out how to resolve the conflict is you have to bring those two parts. It's almost like you got to sit down and have a conversation.
I would do a visualization with my mother. I would sit down in a chair in a meditation as a version of myself. And then I would sit and bring my mom in that space energetically, and every day for as long as I need to have that dialogue. Like, you did this to me and I feel this. And and I would make that part of my process to resolve that internal conflict.
Because that void is the one that's like, oh my God, it's too painful.
I need to be
You need to see me.
I need you to think about the two. You're looking for the nurturement. You're looking to nurture yourself. Nobody wants to be an addict, whether you're a shopaholic, whether like all these things. When you're talking about addiction and coping mechanisms, you're talking about conflict.
Right.
And
you don't want to see the conflict, you don't want to feel the conflict, so you'll do all these things outside.
Yes.
But really, all you need to do is
sit with yourself. I feel like I'm repeating myself here, but the truth of the matter is, it really is sitting down. And like I said, I would start with a visualization where you bring the conflict in the space that you're in. Okay, so let's say the conflict is your mother, or the conflict is your job experience, and then you sit down and it's like two chairs across from each other, and you're there communicating to that part, and then that part you listen, you actively.
But I guess
listen.
you have to acknowledge that there's a part,
Yeah.
because the problem is people, again, because it goes back to the cycles.
Conflict
I don't
resolve.
want to feel that
yes.
part.
Conflict resolve is also about active listening,
Right.
and most of us don't.
We don't listen to each other and we don't listen to ourselves, meaning we don't even, so it goes back to, again, being willing to see that part that's hurting the most.
Yes.
That needs that connection, the attention. It's the void that's causing the chaos and the, because, well, actually, no, it wants you to, I guess the conflict is arising because it wants you to recognize the conflict within you so that you can see the part.
Also, the conflict is arising within you so that you can feel your feelings.
Right.
And acknowledge what these emotions really are.
But you have to, I guess, because I'm just relating it to myself. Like, I had to understand that part, first of all, exists.
Yes.
And then it's
you
have to move into...
Here's the thing, I'll make that simple for you. If you're in conflict, it exists. Whatever you're seeing in front of you, it exists.
Right.
So you cannot be oblivious to that.
Yeah.
You
but if
can't
people
act
don't
like
understand the concept of like conflict and how it
the
mirrors...
only time that a person may not understand that conflict is a person who's avoiding the most. So like, I don't know, that's not my problem, it's somebody else's problem. Well, it's in your vicinity, it's in your space, it's your problem.
Right.
Like if I always have to ask myself, like even if it's so I was in Cuba recently, and so I was really paying attention to my vibrational stance, right? And there was a couple like off in the distance, kind of like I was kind of swimming, but like a part of me didn't want to go in that direction. But I was kind of like, I'm in the water, enjoying myself, having my thing. And then all of a sudden, this woman is just attacking her significant other. And I can hear why she's attacking him. And he's just passive aggressive, like no. And I was like, oh, I guess I'm still in alignment to that type of relationship dynamic of like, there's this narcissist or there's this person that's avoiding the issue or they're in their victim mentality. They want to take no accountability. And now the person that's getting reactive looks like the asshole. Right? When really they're holding them accountable and they're asking I saw it. She was losing her mind. She was asking the right questions. He was sitting there gaslighting her and like making it look like if someone ever heard her or saw her, like she was insane. She's
crazy.
Like look how crazy she is, because look how calm and composed I am in comparison to her.
Right.
That is a theme in my life and a pattern that's happened 100 times. I don't even know, like people have seen me lose my shit, get reactive, and they don't see the accumulation. And this is the contradiction. A lot of people have communicated to me, you're a very patient person, Christina. I don't know how you do what you do, right? I don't know how you do what you do, and you're a very patient person. If I'm losing my shit and I've gone to that point, imagine the accumulation of things.
Of that, yeah.
P.S., just so you know, my dad did that. Calm, collective, patient, and then lose it.
Yeah. Right.
And then I'm out. That's what he would do.
Instead of just conflict resolving as it starts to build
Which
up.
goes back to what I said to you the last podcast episode that we did, is like have the conversation before it gets to the point that it gets to.
That it gets bad.
Resolve that conflict.
So last question about that. So interesting. So you weren't directly in a conflict.
No.
So this is another thing that we've been learning how to pay attention to what's going on.
Yes.
So you don't necessarily even have to be in a conflict. You can witness it. Like I can be walking in the grocery store and I'm hearing someone really fucking go at it.
Yeah.
It's almost like maybe I should see what that's about, because
most people will be like, Ivana, mind your business.
but I'm going like, hold on a second, what are they saying? Because like if it's in my environment, it's gotta be some kind of a thing. I'd rather not be like in it.
Yeah, for sure,
right?
For sure.
But I'm like, oh, what are they saying? Because there's gotta be some dynamic that's playing out here.
Yes.
That's possibly playing out for me. Or this is my favorite, we talked about this a few times. I will have people come to me and express how they feel or bring up their own conflicts with like their boss or their significant other or friends, and I'm like, oh fuck, like, this is totally me. Like this person is communicating to me that I also, like, whatever conflict they're having with someone else, I have it too. So I need to pay attention, because by laws of attraction, I wouldn't be hearing this conversation.
Well, here's the thing too. I think people need to understand that the universe is always communicating to us. It doesn't have a formative language. I can't sit here and be like, hey universe, you want to come here and have a conversation with me?
Yeah.
The universe is like, I'm going to bring you these experiences. I'm going to communicate to you exactly where the conflicts are and where the blocks are and where the issues are and where the limitations are and where the patterns are. So you have the opportunity to either see it. I mean, I'm giving it to you. I'm handing it to you. I'm letting you know. And then it's your job to, okay, this, and this, and this, and this. And now I need to figure out what this all means to me. I mean, most people go into the spiritual bypassing aspect of things. So like angel numbers and like 222 showed up and like 444.
So I'm fine.
No, that's not
I know. That's what I'm
opposite.
saying. It's like I saw the Instagram. I saw 444 in the microwave. So I'm like, I'm good.
11, I'm just gonna make the wish, right? I think too. That's so funny, but it's so true. I've heard it so many times. The angel numbers keep coming up, and I'm gonna get. But by the way,
but your life is full of conflict. That shit's blowing up.
But those angel numbers are also an indicator that you have to pay attention to the conflicts that are going on in your life. Like if 444 is around you, like 444 usually means your angels are surrounding you. Okay, there's conflict here, so my angels are stepping in to protect me while I'm navigating through those experiences.
Right.
If someone sees like 555, sometimes
I keep seeing 555 everywhere.
Okay, so 555 usually means that you're on a destination and on a path, but it's not concrete. Like it's not set. Like you could choose, but during the choosing process of it, there's going to be more obstacles that are going to show up so that you can get better at reflecting your conflicts and understanding yourself, so that you can, you roll your eyes, right? Thank you. The universe is like, Ivana, you asked for it. I'm here giving it and delivering it to you, and you're rolling your eyes, right? But the reality is it's that. Like, even with 1111, when it shows up, people have associated that with a very positive thing, which it is. But what they don't register is that the 1111 is showing up with the thing that you're communicating. So if in that moment you were communicating complaints, or in the moment you were in a conflict, or you were communicating issues or like things that you don't want to have in your life, the universe is like, pay attention, because that's what you're going to manifest.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Versus it being like, oh, that's why people are like, make a wish, because it can interrupt that frequency that you're operating with. It's like a gate that opens up, or a portal that opens up to say these manifestations that you're going to communicate right now in this freaking moment are going to line up faster.
Right.
So the universe is, like I said, always giving us these informations and the opportunity to resolve conflict. But most of us don't. We avoid conflict.
Yeah.
People don't want to have the conversations.
For sure. And the other thing that comes to mind, just to end it, is when I know it's not a conflict, but still, when we attract accidents.
Yes.
Or when we fall or like break something.
Yes.
That's also a reflection of, I guess, is it still conflict within you? I guess, because you're not attracting a smooth experience. You're attracting something.
You may also be very out of alignment.
Right.
So the universe is also giving you an indicator that you need to redirect your life. You are operating so far out of yourself.
So injuries, accidents.
Here's a conflict too, because, the universe in itself is multidimensional. So like one truth here is a different truth in a different dimension. Fine, whatever. We'll have a conversation about dimensions. Whatever. Point is
3D.
Right. Stick to the 3D, Christine. I get it. The issue as well is that it gets confusing between you have free will and you can manifest and you can create. Yes, you have free will, you have the ability to manifest, you have the ability to create, you have the ability to have the desire. But you have to do it from a place that's true to you. You can't be like, I don't know what example I can give you. I've never played basketball in my life and I want to be an NFL player. Like I want to actually go ahead and be a basketball player. Yeah. Like, well, what training have you done? And they're like, no, my desire is this. And I'm going to like, okay, I'm not saying you can't have that experience. Maybe it is in your experience. Maybe if you were like really just talented and you just showed up and like they were like scouting you, you were just playing hoops on like outside in some, yard, I don't know. The way I'm describing this is awful, but whatever. I'm trying to like find something that makes sense. But they may scout you. People are found, talent is always found. Right? Out of nowhere. And then you have someone else who's trying and may not necessarily work out. Gets injured, because it may, and subconsciously too, they may also have been very gifted and very much in alignment to doing it, but there was a part of them that didn't want to do it.
So it's like, nope. So that's the conflict again, right?
Which goes into the victim mentality. They created they aligned with a situation that forced people around them to say, well, they can't play basketball anymore because they've injured themselves to that degree. And that's subconscious. And even that person may not have that awareness till later on down the road when they realize that wasn't everything that I wanted. This is now more nurturing and caring. It really depends on the person, because when we're talking about healing and we're talking about alignment, we're talking about like free will and all that, like it's individual. Right? And so I can't define that specifically because everyone's unique in their vibration. But, when we're talking about conflict and we're talking about like the universe working in our favor, I would much rather work with the universe than against it. I'll tell you that much.
Right. But even like small little injury, like I remember like myself, like if I like injured my knee or like rolled my ankle at the gym, like before I would never ask myself.
The conflict was that you weren't going to the gym because you wanted to align with health and vitality.
You blew out my left knee.
Well, you were going
10 years ago.
Right. Number one, that's an alignment to your relationship dynamic with your mom. Left is feminine, right is masculine. Number two, the resentment. Right? Of like, I need to be skinny, I need to look pretty, I need to look well, I need to look like all these things that my mother wants me to look like. I'm so tired, I don't even want to go to the gym. I
hated the fucking gym.
Right? I didn't even want to go have that experience, but I was forcing myself to do it. But because I'm like, it goes back to that like limitation that you have, or that cycle, where you're like, I can't just say,
I don't want to go.
I don't want to do this. I have to have something really extreme happen so people feel sorry for me and then they excuse me from doing that.
And it's so funny because nobody was forcing me to go to the gym. I was forcing myself.
But that's the trauma, right? That's like your contrast. That's a conflict with your mom. That was a trauma that needs to be resolved within yourself. Now when you go to the gym...
it's an entirely different experience.
Because you're not going to the gym so you can look good for her. And so she can accept you and validate you. You've resolved the conflict. The conflict is, I'm going to the gym because I want to be healthy, I want to feel vital, I want to feel strong, I want to take care of myself. It's now about me.
And it's a different type of workout too.
100%.
I blew out my knee doing those high intensity. There was actually an army guy yelling at us.
Like it was a boot camp?
It was a boot camp. And he was like I was like, why is this guy like yelling at me? And I wasn't paying attention to myself when I blew out my knee.
Ouch.
And that was fun times 10 years ago.
No.
So, interesting. Well, the things I know now.
What conflict do you think that you need to resolve? Like, what's something that you think that you need to resolve?
Right now? Moving into, it's actually the limited mindset.
Okay.
That's what I'm working with right now.
And so how do you attract experiences in the limited mindset? Oh, this one's good because I think it falls into the conversation we had a couple of days ago.
I think it encompasses both romance and work. 100%.
So you live month by month. Remember we had that conversation?
Which is very much survival mode. And we're like, I could be thriving, but I'm not. So, but I also can't sit here and wait. So I think the conflict has come up for me to take action.
Initiation,
and initiate and step into even more of the leadership role than I am right now. And on the other spectrum, the more challenging spectrum is actually to walk away from people where it's the whole like it's better to get something than nothing.
Right.
But if I walk away from this something that doesn't serve me, I open myself up to more.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the conflict that I'm currently like really trying to cut off and resolve. My needs are not getting met, but for some reason you're still here in this situation.
Yeah.
Why are you here?
Yeah.
When you know consciously your needs are not being met.
Right.
But it's the fear of, well, if I have two,
mm-hmm.
2 is still better than 0.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that's
like,
very,
I don't know how else to explain
but that's
it.
very much an alignment to the limitation, for sure.
That's the limitation.
Yeah, and you'll never really align with the things that you truly desire if you're operating
for as long as you're taking the 2 or the 3.
Yeah, or
right.
like the small little dose of attention, the small little
right.
hit, the small
right.
little validation, for sure. I think for me, one thing that I'm resolving right now is it's a couple of things, and I think it all ties together. It's I no longer want to be blamed for being honest
mm-hmm.
and seeing things for what they actually are.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want my abilities to be used in the wrong way by the wrong types of people.
Mm-hmm.
And I definitely am over being the bad guy in other people's narratives.
Yeah, so that feels like losing a lot of connections.
It just feels like I'm ready. I feel to me right now energetically, like before there was a lot of learning, and I think
mm-hmm.
I needed to go through a lot of experiences to learn a lot about people, and I've been doing this for a very long time, and I feel like some people had amazing experiences with me, some people had shitty experiences with me, all based on the vibrational stance that they operated with, and some maybe I messed up on,
mm-hmm.
100%. But I do feel that even the ones that were good or that used to praise me, I always say the person that praises you the most, you got to be careful with. They didn't value and appreciate the gifts that I had to offer. And there was a lot of stuff said and done behind my back, mm-hmm. which I think is common for a lot of people, because people do gossip and people do get jealous and all that. The only difference now is that it's not like I'm never going to attract these issues. I know I will. I just feel that I don't need to be the bad guy. It's like, okay, so if you felt that this is what you needed, or you felt that you could take responsibility for that and leave
mm-hmm.
me be.
Mm-hmm.
Like, or maybe even, because I think like a lot of people in my life have stayed silent. I think like there's also this, I'm not asking people to defend me. It's not that. It's almost like, don't insult people's intelligence that are around me doing the work or having the experiences just because you don't get it.
Mm-hmm.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So there's a lot of that, and then I found that most of those people would like fall back into people pleasing those people, mm-hmm. and then I look like the idiot, like, well, I'm here helping you and you're doing all these things, but then you're going over there and that person's, saying the thing that you're doing or the experience that you're having is wrong or bad, or you're part of a cult or whatever mm-hmm. maybe. So there's this like negative experience, but then you're kind of like hiding that you're doing the spirituality, or like, you're not really showing that you're doing it. And if you are, it's got to be super positive. It can't have any shadow aspect to it. And I was like, no, that's not fair. You're not being fair to me. Like it's a fairness. It's almost like there's such a disrespect to the craft. Mm-hmm. There's such a disrespect to my abilities by you insulting yourself mm-hmm. with what you're doing and how you're healing and how you're operating by giving these people the permission. So there's a lot of that complexity and conflict right now that I'm mm-hmm. trying to work through. Mm-hmm. And like why I wanted to do this podcast specifically was because I wanted to show people a different representation of me, because mm-hmm. it's different when you're having a one-on-one with me. Mm-hmm. It's different when you're a friend of mine. It's different when I'm teaching in Soul Thrive or when I'm doing a workshop. And then obviously I've kind of hid behind all of that, mm-hmm. right? And now given the opportunity that I'm here, I'm more open to the rejection, because it's going to be like, what the hell is this girl talking about? And she's always talking about dimensions and mm-hmm. spirituality and like all the other crazy stuff. And I was like, well, you know what? This exists, whether you like it or not. You may not get it. I'm okay with that. Just don't insult people that are in alignment to that as well.
Yeah. Oh, that's interesting. I feel like, isn't this podcast maybe for both of us like a way to conflict resolve?
Yeah. Well,
because there's an element of wanting to hide and there's an element of wanting to be seen.
Yeah.
So like you bring them together and voila.
Yeah, definitely. I like that. I think that's a good balance, and I think that's really healthy. I think we're on the same page.
Yeah. No conflict.
No, even if we had conflict, I think we would resolve it.
Exactly,
right?
exactly.
I would hope so.
Yes.
All right. So I think that's
We'll
good
end
for
it,
today.
yeah.
All right.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
guys, for tuning in.
Thanks.